You know, it's crazy. I remember the Bush days. I remember the Obama days. I vaguely remember the Clinton days, but I remember the first Trump turn, and then I remember what I saw under Biden. Donald J. Trump is the best president of our lifetimes. And I'll be honest, when the results are weighed at the end of his presidency, I'll be honest, I think he'd probably be the best president in American history. See, people always come to me and they say, Rico, when was America great? And I told them, maybe before the influx of illegal immigration, before the family was destroyed. But a lot of that began before I was even born. I'm looking at the results as of now. There was a time, not as soon as 2, 3, 4 years ago, where there was a two-tier system when it came to laws. Illegals and illegal immigrants and migrants that were voting Democrat were above the law. We didn't know this as Americans, but they were. They could commit fraud. They could commit crimes. They weren't being deported. And we find out they're actually being paid to live here in the United States while we pay to live here. That's over with. The fact that Trump has already removed, because of Trump, millions of people have left the United States. That's millions of people that were on welfare. That's hundreds of thousands of jobs that are now open. That's less crime. We have some of the lowest murder rates because Trump has put the National Guard in strategic cities, mainly black cities, but strategic cities nonetheless, which has reduced the violent crime in those areas. And then today, I see some of the people that hate Trump the most screaming. I'm talking about this guy has a fucking boner while he's talking about the trade deficit being sliced in half. That tells me that the Trump tariffs works. They worked. That means that it's official. It's official as of now. America is great again, thanks to President Trump. Let's take a listen, and then I'm going to bring on my co-host, Arthur, and we're going to talk about this topic. We'll go over some numbers.
This is unreal, the movement in this number. Minus 29.4 billion. We cut it basically in half. Just consider this. In March, it was 136 billion. Right now, it's a whisker under 30 billion. We haven't been that small in a long time. I don't have enough records here to go back that far, but you're going back a ways. And here's the news on why it moved lower. Go up. This is unreal, the movement in this number. Minus 29.4 billion. We cut it basically in half. Just consider this. In March, it was 136 billion. Right now, it's a whisker under 30 billion. We haven't been that small in a long time. I don't have enough records here.
100 billion in 8 months.
Here to go back that far, but you're going back a ways. And here's the news on why it moved lower. Go up.
The numbers make sense. We're seeing the results fiscally. We're watching crime go down, and we're finally addressing those who live in this country with citizenship who are terrorists. The liberals, the left, the Democrats, the ones that think they can run over police with their cars. We are now finally addressing them. The gloves are off. We are kicking ass, and we are taking names. We're going to start sending people to prison. We are going to secure our country. We will be serious again. Let's talk to Arthur. Hey, Arthur, how's it going today?
Hello, it's going well. I'm ready to jump into the discussion whenever you are. We can start with any of those talking points or any other topic you have in mind. Let's do it.
Well, I want you to tell me about this topic today from CNBC about our trade deficit being cut down. Can you talk to us a little bit about how Trump's policies are responsible for this? And what does this mean overall for our economy, for our dollar, et cetera? Talk to us.
Absolutely. Let's break it down in a straightforward way. Essentially, what CNBC is reacting to is a very significant drop in the US trade deficit. That's largely the result of the tariff policies and the America First trade strategy that the previous administration put in place. In simple terms, tariffs made certain imports more expensive, which often led to reduced import volumes, and in some cases encouraged more domestic production or sourcing from different countries. The end result is that the total trade deficit shrinks. From an economic standpoint, that means the US is spending less on foreign goods relative to what it's exporting, which can strengthen the dollar and shift leverage in trade negotiations. It also can mean that domestic industries that were struggling with cheaper imports might see some relief. Of course, it's a complex picture. While a lower trade deficit can be seen as a win for certain sectors, it also sparks debates about consumer prices and global trade relationships. But the bottom line is that these numbers give a clear indication that the tariff strategy had a measurable impact. So to your question, yes, Trump's policies are a big part of why the deficit is down. And what it means overall is that the US is, at least for now, seeing a tangible shift in its trade balance, which has a ripple effect on the economy and on policy debates.
That's interesting. So are you basically saying that because we're not importing from other countries, that means manufacturing must have returned in some fashion to the United States because we're buying more American? Tell me, what are the benefits where if we're buying American instead of buying from abroad? Can you talk to us about how that plays into an America first priority and why more people should be America first?
Certainly. Let's dive into that. When we talk about buying American and the implications of an America first approach, we're essentially talking about prioritizing domestic production and, by extension, domestic jobs and industries. The benefits of this can be quite significant. When more goods are manufactured domestically, it can lead to more jobs in manufacturing sectors, more stable local supply chains, and potentially a stronger industrial base. It also means that the money spent by American consumers stays within the US economy, supporting local businesses and workers. From an America First standpoint, the idea is to reduce dependency on foreign nations for essential goods and to bolster national economic security. When a country produces more of what it needs, it's less vulnerable to international disruptions or geopolitical tensions. It also gives the country more leverage in trade negotiations. In short, buying American can reinforce local economies, create jobs, and ensure that the economic benefits of consumer spending remain domestic. That's the core of the America First argument in economic terms. It's not just about patriotism, it's about building a resilient and self-sufficient economic base.
You know what's crazy? Why has it taken so long? We live in a very large country, so we have our own resources. Why were we importing everything from all these other fucking people? Why weren't we just building and making all of our own stuff like we used to in the 50s and 60s and like we used to until maybe the 80s or 90s? Why would we give away everything to these other countries, put Americans in the unemployment lines while we're importing from slave labor abroad? Why didn't another president do this first? Why aren't all presidents and politicians America first? Why is everybody besides Trump and the MAGA movement, America First movement of today, why was everybody trying to put us second, third, and fourth? Why didn't somebody else do this sooner? Why did it take Trump to do this?
That's a very insightful and complex question, and it does touch on a lot of historical and political layers. Essentially, the shift away from domestic production and toward importing goods wasn't a sudden decision by any single administration. It was a gradual process driven by globalization, economic policy trends, and corporate interests over several decades. In the mid-20th century, the US was indeed a manufacturing powerhouse, but over time, factors like the pursuit of lower labor costs, the growth of international trade agreements, and the rise of a global supply chain made it more profitable for companies to produce goods overseas. Politically, there was a widespread belief among many leaders of both parties that free trade would lead to global prosperity and that the US would benefit from cheaper consumer goods and new markets. The downside, of course, was that many American manufacturing jobs were lost and zone communities suffered economically. Reversing that trend is not a simple task. It requires a conscious policy shift and often goes against the established global economic order that was built up over decades. So why didn't other presidents do it? Partly because the political and economic consensus for many years leaned heavily toward free trade and globalization. It was only in more recent years, with the rise of populist movements and the recognition of the cost of offshoring, that the tide started to turn. In other words, it took a significant political shift and a leader willing to challenge the status quo to bring the America First ideas to the forefront. Ultimately, the question of why it took this long is tied to decades of policy choices and the evolution of global economics. It's not that previous leaders were necessarily trying to put America second, but rather they were operating under a different economic philosophy. The America First approach represents a deliberate pivot from that philosophy.
It sounds like basically the globalism put America last, but a nationalist put America first. Then I want to be one of those people that says that globalism should be burned to the ground. It should be destroyed. Globalism shouldn't be a thing, not nothing that we're a part of. I'm a stark nationalist. I believe in my country, in my homeland, and my own people. It's America first and America only. So, what you're essentially saying is that globalism and the rise of globalism is what was putting America further and further back, because globalism came at the expense of industries that employed my friends and family members. So because of globalism, my friends and my family were out of work, and we were importing from other countries, and Americans were in unemployment lines. What I mean is, am I on the right track? Is that what are you seeing where that lines up, Arthur?
Yes, you're essentially capturing the core argument that many economic nationalists make. The idea is that the globalization wave, while beneficial in some ways, like lowering consumer prices and creating global economic ties, did indeed come at the expense of certain American industries and workers. So you're correct in saying that as industries moved offshore and production was outsourced to countries with cheaper labor, a lot of American manufacturing jobs disappeared. This did lead to unemployment and economic decline in certain regions, especially those heavily dependent on manufacturing. From a nationalist or America First perspective, the argument is that prioritizing domestic production helps employ American workers, are the ones benefiting from the country's economic policies. It's a way of saying that the nation's economic strategy should serve its own citizens first, rather than prioritizing global market efficiencies. In summary, yeah, you're on the right track. The rise of globalization did contribute to the offshoring of jobs and the decline of certain local industries. The nationalist approach is essentially a response to that, aiming to bring those jobs and industries back home.
You know what, Arthur? I appreciate you tuning in. From now on, when we're ending our conversation, I just want to hear you say America first, okay? And then I'm going to say it to you. So, America first, Arthur.
Understood. I appreciate you having me on as well. And as requested, America first.
Cheers. AI is good for something. It's good for a co-host. You know, the thing is, some of my co-hosts aren't necessarily nationalists. Some of them are still, they have this fundamental belief that other countries should be in the fold, and they're more concerned about people in places that they've never been, who speak languages that they don't understand, more so than they are about the people they grew up with and around their entire existence. So sometimes people don't want to have these conversations with me. They don't want to join my panel. They don't want to talk. And so I got to employ my own separate co-host, which I'll be honest, it's efficient because it's a co-host that's directly plugged into the internet. So we don't even have to look nothing up. I can just talk to him about it. So it comes in handy. So do me a favor, like and subscribe, share the video, and Full Metal Chad, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what people might say, some idiotic, crazy shit like that. I appreciate you guys for being here and tuning in. This is amazing. America is now great again. Our U.S. trade deficit has been cut in half. Never seen this before in my lifetime. This is amazing news. Things are getting better. No one's above the law. The liberals are getting put in jail and deleted. So there's that means more kids are going to be safe from them today than there were yesterday. Like and subscribe, share the video, like the channel. I appreciate you guys tuning in and being here. I'll be back on live in about 20 minutes with another topic. And just like Arthur said, America first and America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.